All right, Dr. Breaux, we are live. Are you ready to kick this thing off?
I am ready. I
Let's
am
do it.
ready.
KTTV, giving you what you need. Motivation, education unleashed. H-Town representing, we forever keep it rolling. Join the conversation with inspirational stories. Thought provoking, feel that energy. Kendrick Thomas aiming to lift the community. True indeed, tune in, come and see. Giving you what you need. KTTV, let's go. KTTV.
What do you do, KTTV? This is KT, and you are now tuned in to another episode of Education Unleashed. And on tonight's episode, I have none other than the queen herself, educator, board member, consultant, entrepreneur. I can keep going, but I'm just stop. Dr. Darlene Breaux. How you doing
What's
tonight, Dr.
up?
Breaux?
What's up?
Look, this is just like a reunion. You stay supporting me so much. I can countless seasons. So I just want to say thank you for coming back, filling us in on what's been going on, and just giving us the business.
Oh, I appreciate you. I just, I just love all the work that you're doing, the knowledge that you're always dropping, right? And
Yes, yes.
this great work that you just, it's the I'm just, I feel privileged that, you keep inviting me back. So thank
Hey,
you.
look, I wouldn't have it any other way. Like I say, all these years, and it never ceases to amaze me that you just keep climbing and keep moving. So, we got to keep getting those updates, Doc. You're like a personal fan
Oh,
favorite here. So, before we jump into it, the wellness check is so important as we just move through life. So, I know you've been on the road. I know you kind of been picking up some new ideas, new work. So, how have you been since our last conversation? And as you move around so much, how are you taking care of yourself?
well, yes, I am. Our mental health and mental well-being is so critically important to us, especially in really in any position, whether you're in leadership or whatever, educators. Making sure that we take care of ourselves. One of the things that I have to be real intentional about is my schedule, right? And so, because when my schedule and I'm super busy, I can get really stressed. So I'm really intentional about my calendar. And so I calendar everything. This is the last one of the last things that I look at night, because I need to prepare and think about, the next day. And again, I look at it in the morning. But I meditate, and then I also, we kind of talked about it earlier, I have a journal. It is so important for my mental stability and my mental health to be able to schedule that time and take that time out on a weekly or a daily basis to get myself back centered and
Yes.
remember my purpose, remember my why, and don't let the whirlwind of everything that's going on, kind of tilt me, kick me off center. That I have to come back to my purpose, my passion, my why, and make
Mhm.
sure that I keep that central.
Look, I understand totally about that. Because like they always say, once you know the why, then everything else comes. Your what comes, your how comes. But understanding that why, being grounded in it, rooted, and if there's nobody else that I know is grounded in that why, like just watching you as you work and you keep moving all the way from the Biden education piece that we did, or all the way back to
Yes,
the beginning school, like just keeping it going.
yes.
So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. You're
Yeah.
welcome.
Now, for the people that don't know you, maybe they've been on a Mars or something. Give us a little bit of background on you, and the work that you've been doing.
Sure. Well, I'm a career educator. I say once you're a teacher, you're always a teacher. I find
Amen.
ways to always have the ability to work with individuals and teach. So I'm a career educator. I'm an educational researcher. I'm one of those that has that brain that when things come up, like my first thought is, well, what does the research say about this? And so I'm an educational researcher. Of course, I'm an Alief ISD school board member, and I'm a chair of our policy committee. But I'm also a TASB, Texas Association of School Boards. So that's for the entire state. I'm on their board of directors, and I think that's critically important for me to get the broader understanding of the challenges and the great things that districts are doing outside of ALE. So I get to see, what districts, our rural districts are doing, and our suburban districts. So I really enjoy that piece. I recently became a master trustee. I spent a year-long fellowship. Well, mine ended up being like almost a year and a half because I started during COVID, and then we had to shut it down, and then we came back and we did a whole another year. And so at the end, I got the designation of master trustee. I'm an author, and I do some adjunct. So that's that teaching part that I said I still love. Oh my gosh, I really, really enjoy that. So I get to do that work. And I am the director and an instructor with the TPI, Texas Education Policy Institute. And we'll maybe talk about that a little later, but where I get to work with educators across the state of Texas on education policy. And I am the primary consultant and CEO of Insight Ed, which is my consulting firm.
Insight Ed. Uh-oh, wait, I got a little background. I think. Hold on, wait, let me see here what we got. Miss Robinson, shout out to the boss lady. Say good evening, Mr. Thomas and Dr. Bro. All right, thank you for tuning in there, Miss Robinson. I appreciate you. Look, she's so awesome. So, Doc, Insight Ed. Now, talk to me about that name. How did you come up with the name Insight Ed?
Very good. So, I am very much I think about things. I don't just do, things for no reason. And it had to have meaning for me. So when I I was thinking about, knowing who you are. It's important to know what your gifts are, your strengths, your talents, all of that. And so I said, in order to do that, you have to have insight on yourself. Like it's a deep, intuitive understanding, right? You can have insight to you as an individual, and you can have an insight into your organization, right? Being able to have that deep, intuitive understanding of who you or who your organization is, right? And so that's why I thought of the word insight. But when I was designing kind of my logo back then, or like I was thinking about how I wanted it to look, I wrote it and I was changing the colors, and I had put in one color and then sight in another color. And then I said, so insight can be seen as one word, that deep intuitive understanding of who we are. But once we have insight of who we are, our goals, our dreams, and our aspirations can be in sight. So that's how I came up. And I said the ed on the background because I feel like what I'm doing is educating individuals to make sure that leadership is it's important to make a difference when you're there, but you also want to make sure that when you step out, then that impact still occurs. So I want to educate individuals so that they can carry on the great work.
That's very powerful, Doc. That name and that story behind it, very, very serious. But that doesn't surprise me. Once again, that's you, Doc. So big shouts out to you for just getting the thing started, jumping out on courage. I think the last two conversations maybe we had, you were with Harris County. Yes, and so now you've taken the leap and went full time into the business. So, what made you feel like this was time for that transition?
Well, actually, what I'm doing now, I feel I've done it my entire educational career. My educational advocacy, working with individuals and our campuses and ensuring that best practices are occurring. I have tended to be grounded in that type of work, but also tended to be, you know, connected, or I wanted to work with districts and schools and campuses that serve our students, that challenge our system at times, right? That our systems are challenged to meet their needs. And so this last legislative, well, I wouldn't say the last legislative session, but over COVID, like when COVID happened and it shut everything down, I said, what a perfect opportunity for some great work to be done to overhaul our educational system. Like we see what's broken. We see the inequities with our students in both rural, urban, suburban districts, their challenges with connectivity, devices, and all that kind of stuff. And I said, oh, this is the perfect time. And I was waiting for that courageous conversations and those that courageous work to happen, and it didn't. And it somewhat, but not the real turnaround that's needed. And so I thought about it, and I was like, Darlene, you've been doing this work. Maybe it's your voice, maybe it's your efforts, maybe it's your actions. And I feel like that my career has definitely prepared me for the work. But it's just that stepping out there and doing it. And so really through a lot of just prayer, meditation, we mentioned, and writing in my journal, I came, it was time. I heard it very loud and clear: open your mouth, use your voice, it is time. It's time for a shift, it's time for a change. And so what I know to be true is that I absolutely loved the work that I was doing. I absolutely loved it. But I also felt that it was a launching pad, and I have to understand that certain positions aren't meant for a lifetime. And sometimes it's time for you to move over and follow your purpose so that someone else can slide in and find their purpose. And so, I mean, it really, when I finally made the decision, I felt a sense of peace like you would not believe. And it's just been going literally, since I made the decision, it has just, been amazing.
They say once you step into your purpose, everything else
Yes.
steps on autopilot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Man, I love it, Doc. Congratulations. Just like I say, keep it going. But understand that is the work that you've been doing. So as we jump a little bit more into that, I have a few people that are not in education that tuned in. So just taking it back to ground zero, what is education policy and why is it so important to govern our lives as
So,
educators?
well, and that's a great question. So, what is education policy? And really, I mean, it's really simple. It's the policy that governs, like it's the policy and bills that govern what your school districts are supposed to be doing, right? And so it's really, I say it's that simple. So that's the policy part of it. Now, the implementation and how it's rolled out and the intent behind it, that's when it gets a little bit more convoluted.
But when they do implement. So now with Insight Ed, are you the person that would come in and assist with that implementation, or what would be your role when it comes down to that in the new consulting space?
Yes, yes. So what the great thing that I get to do is I get to work with both districts and campus at the campus level. And oftentimes, I have a couple of just individuals, right? And there's, people want to kind of put you in a box like, well, what kind of consultant are you? And, that kind of thing. And I say it's really about a success coach, and whatever you are trying to do, you want it to be successful, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I get to work with you as a thought partner, as a strategic third party, an outsider to come in, whether it's at the district level or at the campus level or at the individual level. And so I work with you on, and I call my framework SITE, SITE. So that's where you set your goals, right? And then you identify any, the S is for setting your goals. The I is for identifying any barriers. The T is for tracking your progress. And then the E is evaluating outcomes. So that is from the top, the district level. What is it? What are your goals? Looking at your data. What's that story that your data is telling you? It tells you a story if you just listen, right? And so but the importance of me coming in from the outside is that I'm that third party person. There's no biases. Like when it's your baby, you only see the good things. You don't want to identify if there's some other things that may be challenging. So I'm there, and I'm not an evaluator. I'm just saying, hey, let's look at the data. We always start with data, and then we connect it to, well, based on the data, your data is telling me this story. What are the research-based best practices? And literally, I'm just walking side by side with you. So I am not in the evaluator role, and that's what I feel like my purpose has been so successful for individuals, is that that they feel comfortable having those open and honest conversations. And we absolutely look at policy. I am a true believer in aligning policy and practice. And here's the thing: when we see that the policy leads to poor practices, then that's when we say, okay, maybe the policy needs to change. And so I actually work with individuals on looking at the actual policy or the bill and saying, okay, so how can we change this? Because we're the boots on the ground, right?
Mm-hmm.
You create this bill or this policy, and you have good intentions, but then when it filters down to the campus level, then in the classroom level, it might not, come out the way it was intended. So I absolutely encourage the people that I work with to be able to look at and analyze and think about these policies or bills that have been passed and say, okay, if you could talk to the author of the bill, what would you say to them? And that kind of starts the policy work, and that tells me what I should be saying when I'm talking to these individuals, the policymakers as well.
And when you think about the part about just identifying those barriers, so earlier you talked to me about wanting to see a little bit more policy change as we come out of the pandemic and all of the things that we've seen were really struggle issues for almost marginalized communities. So what do you think were the barriers to that change happening? And as you begin to use your voice, what are some of those things that you're saying to those policymakers?
Well, I think some of the barriers are that they didn't have a diverse perspective of individuals at the table. Okay. And so that is so important. You have to bring people to the table who is going to be able to speak up and voice the concerns of different districts, students, populations within their districts, a risk load that maybe a district may have to be challenged with. And so I think that that is the number one thing, is that yes, everybody appreciated, the ESSER funds, and, trust me, I have been to rural districts, and urban districts that had the same issue: access to devices and access to connectivity. But how they had to solve it was so different. I heard a lot of stories about, from superintendents and from that said, oh yeah, we just loaded up a bus, with, the Wi-Fi and the hotspots, and we went out to the apartment complexes, that a majority of our students live, and we had several buses, and we posted them out throughout the district, right? Well, our rural district said, our kids are living miles apart, right? So there was we couldn't do that. So we understood that we had to get them back, excuse me, to the campuses as soon as possible. And that was, it's really understanding that local control of being able to use dollars and funding with some guidelines, of course, but being able to use those dollars in a way that meets the unique needs of that the district and the campuses.
Man, that's it. So many people, like you said, I've heard those stories as I interview people. As we began going through that process, I was able to talk to people like all over the world, literally, like all the way in like let me see, where were we? Ireland. Man, I talked to some people in
Wow.
Alaska, some people in Dubai, and everybody was having the same problem. Like, what do we do? How do we flip? Because of course, school just stopped. So
Right.
so it was so awesome just to understand everybody had unique challenges, and you would never think about that rural versus in the city situation. But like, you just can't pull up and everybody get Wi-Fi, everybody get this. So yeah, I understood. Even talking to friends from like Fulshire, places like that, just what
Yeah.
they were going through. Yes, man. So now when schools do call, has it been more of a reactive or proactive situation when you get caught?
Well, unfortunately, I'm just going to be honest with you. It's typically reactive, because something has come up. It's been brought to their attention, and they need to address it, or that their data is telling them that a need or an issue. And but that's okay. I say we can start wherever, whether it's you've been, dinged for something and you have to come back to the table, or you're looking at your data and you're seeing a decline in enrollment, or you're seeing a decline in students going into your CTE programs, or you're seeing a disparity between your boys and your girls in special ed, you're seeing an increase in discipline. But here's the thing, I would rather you come to me when you start seeing it happen, so I can be at the table with you, from the beginning when you start the conversations, than for it to be, like, oh, we're getting ready to get taken over, we need your help. So I honestly, I've been a part of both. And so I'm, you know, many of the districts that I'm working with that are proactive on some things, we have seen the conversation is so much different, because they're bringing me in because, oh, I want you to be here. Help us through this work. Whereas when I come in, it's because it's like a reactive kind of thing. The first thing I say is, hey, I'm not here to evaluate you. I'm not here to be, a snitch. I'm not here to do any of that. I'm like, hey, I'm on your side of the table. We're gonna get through this. And so I see a little bit of both.
And I think I know what your answer is going to be, but I'm going to ask anyway. When you think about that common denominator of schools who are implementing this policy successful, what is that one tie-in piece?
That are implementing policies successfully?
Yes.
Oh, I'd say alignment and
Mhm.
data.
Mm. Okay.
I mean, those are the two things, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's making sure that your practices are aligning to the policy, and that you're using data to track how it's being the fidelity of the implementation, right? And so here's the thing, you know, if you're only looking at data at the end of the school year, that's an autopsy. And
Mm-hmm.
who wants an autopsy, right? So if you already come up with your key performance indicators from the beginning, those are those indicators that we're going to look at and that we're going to track throughout this process. And then if we see that things are going well, hey, let's keep doing this. Or if we see it's not getting the momentum that we think it should, then we're saying we don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. It might be it might be the implementation, the fidelity of the implementation. So, hey, what is your walkthrough data telling you? Oh, so they're doing this intervention twice a week. Well, why don't we increase the number of days that they're in intervention, or can we increase the time that they're in intervention? See how that, so you're just tweaking things a little bit, but you're not throwing things out with the bathwater. And then we also have to be realistic. You're not going to see these grand results overnight. So you have to benchmark your things out. What do you expect to see in 6 months? What do you expect to see in a year? What do you expect to see by year 3? And being real, just clear and transparent with that, because then you're not disappointed when you don't have this huge turnaround in 6 months to a year.
That's it. And I know you're in Austin now. So does that place kind of take up a lot of your time as you get inside that work, just simply because that's where it's all happening?
Well, really, Austin, we're getting ready for one of the most, I would say, in one of the most important legislative sessions that for public education than we have seen in many years. So during after January, what is it, 10th, 11th, with the opening day for a session to start, it's going to take up a lot of time. But here's the thing: off legislative session, you pick up that phone, you call your representatives. You can do some Zoom meetings. You can go, if they're local, you can go to their office. So it doesn't really necessarily, I always have to run back and forth to Austin. But oftentimes with some of the organizations and committees and things that I work with, they tend to meet in Austin. And so that's why I'm often in Austin, and I'm actually here. I'm presenting some research work that I just completed, and so I'm presenting it at a conference.
So, Doc, are you a lobbyist? Does that?
I'm an advocate.
Okay, all right. Just wanted to get it clear.
Yeah, I'm not a paid lobbyist. Trust me, I am not a paid lobbyist, but I'm an advocate, and I know people say, well, what's the difference? Advocacy. I mean, to me, it's about what is, and I'm just going to say about for advocacy for me. It has to be something that I'm passionate about, which is public education. It has to be, and I'm also very passionate about, our disadvantaged student population. I'm very passionate about, policies that impact our educational system. Sometimes unfair policies that maybe was not intended that way, right? So, and I, especially, I'm a staunch advocate, true advocate for dyslexia. That's like high on my list, and and students that struggle. So I see myself more of an advocate of raising my voice to bring attention to an issue.
That's it. And when we talked a little bit about the effective schools framework, so what are your thoughts on how we are using that in the state of Texas? And would you change anything about it?
So for the effective schools framework,
Yes.
so I honestly don't know how a majority of the districts use it in the state of
Hmm.
Texas, right?
Hmm.
So I don't feel competent to speak on how other districts use it.
Yes.
But as an educational researcher, I am I my processes are always grounded in research. What are the best practices? What has people who've actually gone out and researched and done studies to see the effectiveness of certain programs. And so I know that the effective schools framework is a framework that really encompasses like student outcomes and student achievement and what all you know it what all supports that. And so when as a board member, we get to look at and I guess you could say approve the district improvement plan and each campus's improvement plan. um, uh, and so when I was reading Alief's, I saw that the effective school framework was weaved throughout the entire thing. So what that assured me as a board member, because remember, I have to stay above the line of governance, even though I'm an educator and I want to get in there and fix things. I know my role as a board member is I have to stay above the line of governance. I do not get in the day-to-day operations of the district. That's left up to your superintendent. But I feel that I have to know and understand and be assured that what we're actually doing in the district is best practices with an intended outcome of increasing student achievement.
Most
And
definitely.
so to be able to see how the effective schools framework is embedded in the work that we're doing in ALEAF, it just assures me that we are really grounded in best practices.
That's it. I agree with that. I just think about the work of building those plans, working where there was hits or whether it's ALC, and just how intentional we are about putting
Yeah.
those pieces in. So good work, Doc. So now, as you getting out, Insight Ed is growing. What's next for the company?
Really, what's next with the company is just really what it was always intended to be, is that I get to, work with districts, uh, campuses, and even individuals and doing some great work. And like I mentioned before, like their site, setting goals, identifying barriers preventing them from reaching their goals, tracking their progress, and then evaluating their outcomes. Interesting enough, through my kind of work with as an adjunct professor, I kind of I'm not a dissertation chair, but I've tended to attract individuals that are in their dissertation process. And I actually have been able to work with them as well to kind of like take this big idea of what they have to do their research and just kind of distill it down to just those things, and just, really identifying what do they want to study, and get real about that and kind of give them one of the young ladies I'm working with right now. She's actually lives in Louisiana, and her study is about the mental health and supports for teachers and students who have gone through multiple natural disasters. Louisiana, they've had floods and hurricanes and all that kind of stuff. And so I was able to really work with that wasn't her initial thought. She had lots of thoughts, but then we were able to narrow it down and get her on track. And I do a timeline for her, and I check in. We're checking her progress. We created those key performance indicators, that what are our benchmark dates? Are we on track? Are we behind? And that's literally the same thing I get to do with districts and campuses. So, and the policy work comes from, like, because I really shared with the young lady, hey, what policy implications could come out of your work, right? I know for my dissertation, I had a policy implication. I wanted our dyslexia handbook to be changed, and I'm still working with individuals and State Board of Education on TEA and trying to get that changed. And so it's really about doing the great work. And like I said, Inside Ed will continue to do what it was created to do, which is to support excellent education for all students by supporting the districts and the teachers that serve them, and then also influencing policy through advocacy and action.
Nice. Not lobbying. Just to clarify, no paid.
I'm just an advocate. I'm just
wanted to, just in case.
I am an educator that is just, I'm using my voice.
Hey, I love it.
And I encourage others to do the same.
Now, if I want to get in contact with you, let's say I want to do the proactive conversations and I need Dr. Breaux to pull up on me. How do we find you? How do we contact you to get you in the building?
Well, you check out my website, insideedconsulting.com. Okay, so that way you can go and you can see all the great work that we're doing and the services that I offer. Also on my website, it has all my social media handles, LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn, Darlene Breaux. Twitter, I think it's at Breaux Darlene, Instagram, Darlene.Breaux, and Facebook, Darlene Jones Breaux or Darlene Breaux, BREAUX. I keep thinking we're in Texas. Everybody should know how to spell it, but it's Breaux, BREAUX. And also you can reach me by phone. My office number or my business number is 832-781-0377. And my cell is 713-806-2079. And you can also reach me at info@insideed.com, insideedconsulting.com.
Yeah, that is nice. Just to get you in the building. I see you got your social media up too, Doc. Go get it in now.
Yes, and I would encourage people to follow me, because one of the things that I do is, and if you follow me on social media, I'm always putting some motivational, quotes out there, and I'm telling you, elevate your narrative. We gotta elevate that conversation and that narrative that we have rolling around in our head. So I encourage you to follow me on my social media.
Now, before we get out of here, I'm in Alief. They said bring the Eagles back. I was just gonna tell you what they told me to tell you tonight. Look,
the football.
Yeah. Oh man.
Oh my goodness. My goodness.
One of the barbershops.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say one of the barbershops. I met a guy when I was out there coaching, and do you know, till this day, I just left him like a few hours ago. It's my barber. And so he opened up a barbershop in Alief on Cook. And so a lot of the times we're just helping. Like that's where I had the event, when we were at the barbershop. But we met coaching for the Eagles.
Wow.
I'm telling you. So, so we always talk about those days, just having
awesome.
Fun. Yes. So, but other than that, Doc, I want to say thank you for taking some time out. You never disappoint with the knowledge, with the energy. So just thank you for being you. Thank you for continuing to do the work that matters in our community. And I look forward to seeing the greatness and having you back again.
Yes,
so that we
please.
Can share out.
Bring me back during legislative session or right after so we can get some updates.
Look, we might have to go live and just bust in the session.
Yeah, that's what we need to do.
All right, Doc. Well, I look forward to talking to you soon. And again, thank you for tonight.
And thank you for bringing Inside Ed into your space. I appreciate it.
There it is. All right, y'all. This is KT for KTTV signing out. 100.
This is Darnell with Broadcast Houston.
This is Dr. Tamara Beckford.
Hey, this is Candace.
This is London Underwood.
This is Kirsten Bass with Inner City Greens, and you're watching.
Y'all are now tuned in to
KTTV.
KTTV. KTTV.
KTTV. Is that right?